Welcome back to another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. We're here on location at the PJ's on Airline in Metairie. Make sure you come by here and check them out. Start your day every day with PJ's. And we are coming to you from the mobile Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio. First topic today is presented by Urban South. The Kellen Moore waiting game is kind of just basically going on now. It seemed like for several days now that he is the top pick for the job. But it is a little bit of time now between here and the end of the Super Bowl. I imagine this has to be an incredibly stressful time for just the team because you kind of put out this offer in a different situation. If you can make an offer, someone can accept it. Right now, the Saints can't make an offer. They can't hire him. They can kind of know that both sides want each other, but it's 11 days away from being able to actually make an offer and hire him. So now they just kind of wait.
Yeah, I mean, the rules are very strict on this. And so, I don't think they have a super secret handshake under the table agreement. I think they both have a good idea what they're thinking. You brought this up on the Nickcast yesterday, and I had forgotten about the Jonathan Gannon deal.
Yeah.
Where the Cardinals, all the guy did was, and I don't remember why the rules were different. Their GM called him after the NFC Championship game, which was when the Saints did their interview with Kellen Moore, which was allowed. But he just made a phone call to him, and they had to reach an agreement where they swapped third-round draft picks, moved down 30 spots in the draft as a punishment for that. Even though both sides wanted to hire him, they are very strict about this. So they're being extra careful. And what that leads to is seems pretty confident that Moore is their choice, seems pretty confident that's reciprocated. But until something gets signed, it leaves maybe I can't wait till that thing is actually signed and we actually have that press conference, because we've obviously seen coaches we've seen coaches change their mind even after signing deals in the past history of the NFL. I don't think there's any worry about that. You just wish you could be like, you're in. All right, let's sign it. Let's have the press conference. Let's start hiring a staff and let's go to work. It does stink that you have to wait a couple weeks. Other than that, no reason to fear. This definitely seems like the marriage.
Yeah, and I mean, there seems to be no doubt that he's the top pick for them. Mickey Loomis notified the other candidates that their process won't conclude until after the Super Bowl. There's no reason for it to have to wait that long if it's Mike Kafka, if it's Darren Rizzi, if it's Anthony Weaver. So it seems like all things are pointing toward him. It does kind of raise a couple interesting things, though. I mean, first of all, I think it's probably worst case scenario for the Eagles because your offensive coordinator is coaching in the Super Bowl in the town where he's going to be coaching, and it would be a story anywhere, but the fact that the whole entire state's media is going to be at the Super Bowl asking everybody questions about him, that's kind of a distraction that they kind of got to figure out how to deal with it, and I think it kind of makes it a louder storyline, and that's probably a reason both sides want to try to keep it quiet, but these things, the lid's going to come off it at one point or another. What do you just kind of, I don't know, what are you looking forward to finding out about him next week?
Well, I was going to add one more thing to it. The Saints really also, if they're following the letter of the law, can't take any advantage of that. Oh, you happen to be here in the cafeteria. Let's have lunch together and have casual conversation. I was told they have to clear completely out. And anyone who is even on the Saints staff, I don't know if some people in equipment or medical, I don't know if anyone is there at all, but they cannot be like, hey, since you're here, let me show you around the building. Obviously, Kellen Moore can make those observations by himself. If anyone wants to look at houses on his behalf while they're in town all week, those could be a plus. But none of it can be a secret, an informal interview while he's here. So it really is going to be on hold. Yeah, look, I guarantee you that he is going to try to give the Heisman to as much that is about him and becoming a head coach as possible, but he's going to have to sit there for about 4 hours with the media this week. He's going to have to be at all these sessions where he's either sitting at a table or sitting somewhere in the Superdome surrounded by media for a whole hour. He's going to get asked about the Saints job over and over again. It's going to come in waves. So one of us will be camped out with him the other time, and I'm sure the entire time, and we're going to hear the initial questions. And then at the 15-minute mark, we're going to hear the new people who came over and ask the same questions. And then at the 30-minute mark, people will ask the same questions again. I think what we can get away with asking that is not specific Saints stuff that he doesn't want to talk is just what's your philosophy? How has your philosophy changed with this year at the Eagles? How eye-opening was this experience for you? He used to have this reputation as a guy who was pretty exotic. It's funny, it reminds me of Sean Payton's reputation when Bill Parcells used to call him Dennis the Menace, that he liked trick plays. He was the first guy to have a Cedric Wilson touchdown pass before we saw a Cedric Wilson touchdown pass this year. But this year proved that, if you give me an offensive line and a running back, I'll run for 2,000 yards. And, how much of that did he see going in? How much of that did he learn as he went on? I mean, it's fascinating how much time we're going to get with this guy this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a best-case scenario for us. We can ask all the players, all the assistant coaches, talk to him. Like, by the end of this thing, we're going to have a really good feel for probably who he is, how he thinks, and what he's going to look like in this role with the Saints. It's interesting, though, that the players, a lot of them did want Darren Rizzi, and it seems like this went another direction. I don't know that that's going to be much of an issue, but it doesn't sound like Rizzi's going to end up getting this job, obviously, if it's more. And I don't expect him to stay part of the staff. I think probably very quickly we're going to hear that he's going to Denver to be Sean Payton's special teams coach. That job's kind of on hold for him, and I assume he's going to accept that probably like if he accepts that's the biggest tell in the world that this is wrapped up and it's done, and it's going that direction. But yeah, it looks like the Saints got their next coach, and we're going to see what he does in the Super Bowl. Does it matter to you if they win or lose? I mean, for me, a little bit. Like,
yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, I mean,
this
like
team needs anything positive. Like, this is I've never been around more negativity in all my years, almost covering any team, like than just the negativity that is built on top of the negativity that is built on top of the negativity. And so something as silly as, does the new head coach coming off a Super Bowl win or a Super Bowl loss? Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take anything that's positive momentum for this team.
For me, it's more of a thing where it felt like you look at the Lions, and it felt like both those guys had a foot out the door, and then the Lions just kind of collapsed on both sides of the ball. If I can watch him and it feels like he managed all this and still went in and had a cohesive game plan and was able to tune it all out and was able to have his players play well and call a good game and not look like he was checked out and on his way to somewhere else, I would just feel better about him managing a program, even though that might be false hope or a false positive or whatever. But just the opposite, like the way that just the Lions collapse, like it just puts a really, really kind of like, it's a nasty taste in the mouth.
Yeah,
and
no question.
And,
especially if it's like the offense fell flat. They didn't have an answer
That's what I'm saying.
For what Spagnuolo was throwing at them. Like, it can't.
Yeah, if he comes in, if he comes in and he's coaching like he'd coach any other game, and there's all this stuff swirling, because the whole time you're a head coach, there's stuff swirling and there's stuff going on, and if you can handle that and still be committed to your program and not put yourself before the team and all that, I think those are all very positive signs. Now, they could lose and get punched in the mouth, and he could have done everything correctly, but like if you just see that proof, I think it would make it feel just a little bit better. Yeah, you're just, everything's positive, on the right foot, starting the right way.
We talked about that, I think, back when there were still some candidates left in the Final Four of the playoffs. I mean, it's a positive that he's going through these 2 weeks. I mean, this is incredible experience for any future head coach to be able to go through a Super Bowl experience. That is something that you would rather have your candidate have than having never sniffed this at all. So I think it's a bonus no matter what.
Our next topic is presented by Shaber Insurance, the Earhart Agency. Would Kellen Moore affect? What do you think his hiring means for Derek Carr? Does it change whether they keep him, whether they let him go? Like, what do you think the philosophy is going to be with the quarterback?
I'm still going to predict Derek Carr stays. It feels inevitable. I mean, we've seen them do some salary cap gymnastics before, but these ones, like every trick they've ever shown us before, even if I try every trick that I know of. Now, usually Kai Harley invents a new one that I've never heard of before, and I'm like, oh, that was smart. How come we've never seen it done before? But every trick that I know of, if they were to cut Derek Carr or trade him, which I don't think is likely, they would basically be able to sign no free agents. I mean, they wouldn't even be able to sign Justin Fields for $10 million or less, like as far as I can tell. And you can't just clean house, as we've talked about before. So Man, it would be surprising. I feel like there's probably one more year of Derek Carr. Even if Kellen Moore has a master plan for rebuilding, they've got to have 2 more draft classes at least before they have a young talent base anyway. So it's not like it could happen overnight anyway. But I felt like with Rizzi, if it had been Mike McCarthy, I feel like I would have been 100% sure Derek Carr was staying. And now maybe I'm more like 75, 80% sure that Derek Carr is staying. I wish there was a path to be like, we're going to give Kellen Moore a 6-year deal like what Kyle Shanahan got in San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan lost for 2 years in San Francisco, but they were like, hey, take as long as you need, build what you want to build. I wish there was a path to that. I'll still be surprised to see them start that path this year.
Well, I mean, I think no matter what, it's at least a 2-year teardown if you're trying to get rid of pieces. So then it just becomes what's the best way to manage it. You aren't going to be able to do everything in 1 year. You can't get rid of Derek Carr and all the old guys in one offseason. It's going to be a 2-part thing. So which way allows you to be probably more competitive and ultimately try to have a chance to win games? And I do think it is probably keeping him for another year, but you could just go cut it off. I don't want to start with him. Let me start with Spencer Rattler. We build from here, and you go that way. But like you said, it creates almost impossibilities in how you construct your roster. So I kind of do expect him to be back, but I also I give a little bit of credence to what Diana Rossini was saying on her podcast with Chase Daniel about there possibly being some apprehension about the quarterback room. Obviously, I don't think it's affecting the job part of it, but the apprehension, absolutely, you should have apprehension about this quarterback room. It's one of the biggest negatives about the whole job.
It's probably the number one negative is what's their path to a quarterback.
Yeah, and you have one that's not your hand-picked guy. He costs a lot of money. You can't walk away from him. You don't have anybody coming up through the ranks. And if you're an offensive coach, that's terrifying. Yeah. I think everybody's smart enough to know that if you don't have a quarterback, the job is tough and it's hard to win. And you can be a mediocre coach with a great quarterback, and now you're a great coach. That's just the way it kind of works. And you could be a great coach with a terrible quarterback, and maybe it doesn't shine through. So, yeah, you got to find a way to get there. And I would assume he's terrified of that. That's probably, as you said, I think that's probably the biggest hurdle if you're Kellen Moore to, do I want this job or not? It sounds like he does, but that would absolutely have to be the number one concern.
It's why it was one of the least attractive jobs. Now the blueprint was laid by a familiar person here, Sean Payton in Denver. The situation that could have scared him off from Denver, he had to let himself know, all right, I have to wait till year 2 before I can cut Russell Wilson and draft Bo Nix. And in that first year, he laid the groundwork. I mean, what did they win? 7-8 games his first season. Kept some people, and then in the second offseason, that's when he got rid of Jerry Jeudy. That's when he got rid of Justin Simmons. That's when he got rid of Russell Wilson. That's when he drafted Bo Nix. So, but I'm sure in that first year, knowing, all right, it's going to take me 2 years to get everything I want in place here, I'm sure he did a lot of things in that first year that were building toward his ultimate plan. So, I mean, you wish you could come in here and have the number one pick in the draft. You wish you were taking a job and you knew who your quarterback was. But short of that, I'm sure they are going to let him lay out a 2-year or a 3-year plan. And I just don't think that plan is going to look like, all right, cut everybody this year, win 2 games this year, and then start whatever. It's probably not going to look like that. It'll probably look more like what Denver just did.
We're going to hit a quick break, and we will be back with more show. Ochsner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number 1 grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. NewOrleans.Football is proudly sponsored by Urban South Brewery, the makers of Paradise Park Lager. I love supporting local breweries, and when looking for a refreshing, easy drinking beer, I always recommend Paradise Park. In fact, I think it might be the best game day beer out there. If you want something a little lighter, try Paradise Light. It's everything I love about Paradise Park with just 96 calories and 2.6 carbs. And if you're looking for a family-friendly place to watch the game, I'd recommend Urban South's Tap Room in the Lower Garden District. They've got 15 TVs, 30 unique beers on tap, and mouth-watering urban smash burgers. The whole family will want to make Urban South their new living room, because at Urban South, they take laid back seriously. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hard Hide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com. Welcome back to the NewOrleans.Football show presented by PJ's Coffee. Our next topic is presented by the Louisiana Lottery. If Kellen Moore does come in, what are some of the players that you think could get the biggest boost from his presence on the staff?
All right, so we both talked to a lot of people at the Senior Bowl about what is his style, because he's been a little bit of a chameleon. I think it's a plus, ultimately, that he worked for the Cowboys with Dak Prescott. Then he took that job with the Chargers, even though it didn't go well with Justin Herbert. Then he took that job with the Eagles, and he's worked with Jalen Hurts. He's very opportunistic. He looks like a guy who has been taking graduate school classes to become a head coach and taking the jobs that will help get him there. But along the way, he's adapted, which is, I think, a positive thing, that his offense hasn't looked identical and rigid and doesn't change to the personnel he's had. But one of the things we heard is he likes to attack the field vertically, and immediately you think, well, that's got to be good for a receiver room led by Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed.
Yep.
So even though I wouldn't necessarily say this was the best case scenario for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith this year, and it actually became a big storyline that they were unhappy that they didn't throw the ball enough for a while. I think that's what happens when your quarterback is Jalen Hurts, your running back is Saquon Barkley, and your offensive line looks like this. Believe me, Kellen Moore's entire history is a pass-first guy, and people used to think he couldn't run the ball like this. So I think he will look at this roster and he'll be like, how can I get Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed loose down the field? I think it'll be really good for them. And look, Alvin Kamara will probably be good for him too. I mean, Saquon just ran for 2,000 yards, only had like 33 catches this year. It's not exactly. I mean, Saquon had 90 catches earlier in his career, so I don't know how that affects what he would envision as a role for Alvin Kamara. But an offensive mind like this is probably good for all three of those guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think it's probably good for some of the offensive linemen too. Get into another system. Look, I think it's better for the whole team. Like, you're going to go into the third quarter and presumably have somebody that can still call effective plays. Like, I think that helps your team quite a bit. Their offense was terrible in the second half. They had no counter punches. So I think just having somebody that can do some of that stuff. We saw Derek Carr kind of blend into this offense really well. I don't know if he'll be a winner or a loser changing coordinators again if he sticks on the team. That's one that's going to be kind of interesting to see overall. But
he'll probably like if Kellen Moore likes to get vertical. I mean, Derek Carr always had a little Jameis in him. Derek Carr likes to get vertical too. We know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting with him overall because, I mean, there is some panic to his game though too, and I don't know if you're kind of, it's tough to throw picks down the field, but like if you're kind of going for it like that, not like his risk aversion has kind of gotten a little bit crazy the last couple of years, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to kind of see if he gets into an offense where you got to let it rip a little bit more instead of kind of having everything play it safe. And then in this offense too, like all the progressive reads and all that. I don't know how Philly does it. Kellen Moore does it. I think that kind of helped Derek Carr not make mistakes, even though he didn't want to do it. I think going against what he was comfortable in was actually the best thing for him. So if they're going back to like half field reads or normal type of progressions, I don't think that would be good for him. So I don't know.
And look, I want to make sure that I'm checking myself throughout this whole process and not being disingenuous. I'm going to be excited by what we hear from Kellen Moore. I'm glad they're hiring a young offensive mind. I'm glad they're bringing a new energy and a new philosophy into the building. But especially when you mentioned the offensive line, I was like 100 out of 100 that Clint Kubiak's offense was perfect for any offensive line, but this offensive line in particular. They have a more athletic offensive line, especially with Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz. And then they drafted Tali Fuaga, who fit that system perfectly. And so I probably said 50 times last offseason that for the offensive line and the running backs in particular, I thought that last offense was going to be perfect for them. So if I ever sound like I think this offense is going to be better for them, that's going to come across as hollow. I did think that type of system was perfect for him, but that doesn't mean he's not going to use elements of the athleticism of this offensive line and outside zone runs and things like that. It doesn't mean he's going to completely not do anything that worked for them when they were healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think there could be a better vision for some of those guys still. Like,
sure.
Fuaga was just okay. Like, I don't know. Is he better on the other side of the line? Like, I don't know. I just think allowing somebody else to kind of get a look at it and see if there's a better way to kind of do things, I don't think is the worst thing in the world. And then also, they like kind of like bigger offensive linemen in Philadelphia. So maybe there's another role for Trevor Penning somewhere, maybe on the inside or something. I don't know. Just allowing different people to look at it would be good. And rolling on to our next topic presented by Aaron Rose. Do you have any early thoughts on what kind of happens with Chase Young, Paulson Adebo, Juwan Johnson, and will they be affected at all by the next coach?
Yeah, my guy Matt Bowen from ESPN did his initial top 50 free agent list. Had all three of them on it. I think Juwan Johnson snuck in around number 50. They were all lower, but and he had made the point. He was asking me about some of these guys and asking what I had heard about Adebo's health. He said he would put Adebo in his top 20 if he was healthy.
I mean, that makes sense.
Chase Young, I think there was a report from Jeremy Fowler that went along with it that he's heard early sides that both sides are open to the idea of Chase Young staying. But open to the idea just means I'm open to the idea of anyone offering me the most money in the most years, and I just think that's going to be really hard for the Saints to be the highest bidder on somebody, especially somebody who's going to cost in the double-digit millions. And I've said a million times, I think Chase Young always gets paid because somebody sees the upside there and tries to blind themselves from the downside. But this is one of those questions. If they cut Derek Carr, they're not re-signing any of these guys, basically. Maybe one of these guys. But I do expect them to keep Derek Carr. I expect them to spend their usual amount of money that they've spent in free agency in recent years, which is one or two guys that cost a little money, one or two depth veterans. And I think there's a really good chance Paulson Adebo remains on this team. And maybe Alontae Taylor goes back to being a slot corner and Paulson Adebo and Kool-Aid McKinstry the outside corners. If not, I think they add a corner somewhere of his caliber that they can afford. And Juwan Johnson's really interesting. We just talked about who fits Kellen Moore's offense. I'm not 100% sure what I think about if Juwan Johnson would be more or less attractive to an offensive head coach who's building his offense around someone. He's had so many highs and lows, but again, he finished the season pretty strong. I have a feeling you watch Juwan Johnson tape and you decide he could fit your offense. So, he probably won't cost too much. I wouldn't be shocked if he's back as well.
If Chase Young's getting like $17 million a year, they'll let him go somewhere else. I think that's a terrible contract.
Even if he's getting $13 million a year and for more than 1 year, I just don't think it.
I'd pay him like 8 with incentives, maybe like something like that. Like it just wasn't a good enough year for where this team was at. If you're the Eagles and you feel like you're a player away or something, I could see it. his pressures could end up fooling somebody into paying him. He was like top 10 in pressures. I think he had 66 last year. Like that could fool somebody into paying him. I just don't think that I saw enough. Like I didn't. I'd bring him back at the right price. But
I'd pay him if I had money to play with, and
Yeah.
and if I was a contender, and I was like, especially if I was like, what if he's your third defensive end? What if he's your second defensive end, but you rotate? Like he's an asset. He's an asset.
He's an asset.
You can't afford to. He would come at a I think there's a premium associated with his upside that the Saints can't afford to pay premiums on people.
I've been seeing projections from him from places that are like accurate with him that have him at $35 million over 2 years, 17 and a half a year. Like that's too much for me. It's too much for me. Like I wouldn't do it. Maybe I was too close to it to see it.
The entire league has monopoly money though. I would bet on that being an accurate projection.
Yeah, it just doesn't make. I don't think it makes sense for the New Orleans Saints. I would bring Juwan back at the right price. Like that'd be fine with me. Adebo, I'd probably bring back. Especially if he needs to prove it, but he might not. Like he might not have to do that. Show that you're healthy thing. Like all he has to do is go visit somebody, and if he's healthy and he can run, I think he gets paid. So he might price himself out of here.
True.
I have no idea how to gauge what he thinks about this place because he kind of just carries himself as a grumpy individual. So like, is this like his default is just kind of,
and we don't even know what the defense is going to be. I mean, he obviously fit Dennis Allen's defense really well as a man cover corner. He got a little too handsy sometimes, but he has the length that someone like Dennis Allen or Aaron Glenn would covet. But if this is not a team that wants a long, man coverage,
I think everybody does. Though.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
He'll be all right. Yeah, I think he'd fit. I think they bring him back, but yeah, we don't know what fits or anything. Look, if it's Staley and they want to run a 3-4 front, like where does Chase Young fit into a 3-4 front? Like I don't know. That's what he's always done. So the body types on defense in that front seven might change drastically depending on that. That's what he's always done is 3-4. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. It's like a whole new. Like we haven't had to redefine Saints football in like 20 years. Like it's kind of crazy to have.
Well, Staley, interestingly, is a Vic Fangio disciple, so we know that he should know how to stop all the McVay Shanahan offenses all around the league, right? Because Vic Fangio sure can.
The only people in the league that know how to do it. We're going to take a quick break and be back with the Martins questions of the day. Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martins is your go-to destination for everything merry and bright this holiday season. From an unmatched selection of bourbon, whiskeys, and wines to gourmet food, gift baskets, and catering, Martins has all your holiday needs covered. Family owned and operated since 1946, Martins knows the perfect ways to celebrate this season with loved ones. Visit them in Metairie, New Orleans, or Baton Rouge, or shop online for the ultimate convenience. Whether you're raising a glass or looking for the perfect holiday gift, make it an easy and cheerful holiday with Martins.
Score big with Saints Score. Win up to $100,000. Enter the second chance drawings for cool Saints prize packages. Play Saints Score scratch-offs from the lottery.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, where entertainment meets unparalleled customer service. From our days on the water to our new land experience overlooking the Mississippi River, our dedicated staff is here to ensure your visit is nothing short of exceptional. Whether you are coming or going, our well-lit parking lot and security team provide guests with red carpet treatment. Our security team keeps watch so you can focus on fun and fortune. From table to table, our attentive staff is here to serve up the ultimate experience. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
Welcome back to the NewOrleans.Football show. If you're in the market for a new car, pretty much any type of car, make sure you check out my guy, Matt Bowers, at one of his many locations throughout the New Orleans and Louisiana regions. Best cars, best customer care, best prices. They will get you on the road in the car of your dreams today. All right, first question from Martins, and Martins is home to a selection of handpicked Martins is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martins, so much more than just wine. First one, if Rizzi is not the head coach hire, and we don't think he will be, do you think that any of the players that backed him will be upset, ask for trades, want to be released, revolt against the new people, generally be displeased with the organization?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think the support was real. I don't think it's just everyone being nice and trying to say nice things about Rizzi. I think people really like playing for him, but not like it's a slap in our faces if you don't keep Rizzi. I mean, especially if they're hiring, one of the top candidates who has one of the top offensive reputations around the league as a young, innovative offensive coordinator. I can't imagine a lot of people that would like be so upset or offended over this that they're not going to get on board. But the love for and respect for Rizzi was real and deserved.
And look, I think here's the thing. If you hire somebody and they do a good job, everyone's happy. You run in games, everybody's happy, everyone's bought in. If you hire somebody and you're losing games and things aren't making sense and it's going sideways, everyone's going to be pissed off and be talking about Rizzi. Like, that's just kind of the way it's going to go. I think Rizzi's a good coach. I think there's a strong argument for having a leader in the building, someone that's just that's that alpha leader of the coaching staff. And I don't know if Kellen Moore is going to be that right away. I think he's going to probably take some time to grow into that. But if that's the direction you go and you're good, it's healed. And if it's not, it's not healed. And that's really the way it goes. But no one's going to ask for a trade. No one's going to ask to be released. No one's going to say, I'm not playing for anyone but Darren Rizzi. Because guess what? You can't play for Darren Rizzi, unless you just want to go play special teams. So I
think JT Gray will demand a trade to the Broncos.
I mean, he probably should go win some games. But no, look, that's not a thing. But yeah, I mean, there's probably going to be some people that are a little disgruntled at first and disagree with the direction, and you just got to do what you got to do to get them to buy in. That's your job as a coach. Anytime a new boss comes in, any job, some people are going to be pissed, some people aren't, and it's their job to build that culture. Going to the next one, and it kind of plays into this. This person said, I feel like the phrase leader of men has been overused. The locker room is full of alphas. If the coach puts them in a position to succeed, leadership will take care of itself. There are definitely some alphas in the locker room. I don't know if it's full of alphas in the locker room. There are a lot of really nice people on this team. A lot of real good guys.
Look, I've seen it from every angle, though. We saw the 14, 15, 16 Saints. We saw the 21 through 24 Saints. And even, some Saints teams that started 0-4 and scratched back, it is totally dependent on how the team's doing. And that's when you find out. I think the team will buy into Kellen Moore all offseason because there won't be any losses on the board. But they will turn on you. It's scary to not be an alpha if you're 1-4 and the team feels like you don't know how to get your way out of it. You'll get accused of not holding guys accountable enough, and you'll get accused of holding guys accountable in the wrong way. You can do no right if you're not winning, and if they don't, and you don't have a proven track record to prove it, you will look like you don't know what you're doing. I mean, we saw people lose their belief in Pete Carmichael. We saw people lose their belief in Dennis Allen for sure, and started to see people lose their belief in Clint Kubiak too. If you're losing, they think you don't have the answers. And in that case, I think it hurts to not have an alpha personality. But that if you come in here and you're Kevin O'Connell and you go 13-4 in your first year, you will get ultimate buy-in from every player on the team, no matter what personality you have.
Yeah, look, honestly, I think this team needs like a couple more assholes, like for real. Like I think you need a couple of C.J. Gardner-Johnsons, and you need a coach that can corral them and keep them in the position they need to be in to succeed. And I think they need more of that. But that's different than the alpha thing. Like, yeah, there's some good leaders on this team, but it has to come from the coaching staff. It has to come from them. It's a top-down thing. That was the biggest issue with the last tenure. It was the biggest issue on the overall with DA. It was the biggest issue with the offense with Pete Carmichael. I think Kubiak brought that accountability culture, and then it kind of waned a little bit as people felt like things weren't going the way they were supposed to. And, yeah, I mean, absolutely. But I do agree, the phrase leader of men, I am sick of it, and I don't want to hear it anymore once this is over for a while. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you on Monday from Radio Row.